Okay, so I want you to open your calendar app right now. Just go ahead. I will wait.
Right.
Now, try to schedule a meeting for November 2037.
Yeah, I don't think my thumb actually has the stamina to scroll that far.
Right.
I mean, I don't even know what I'm having for dinner tonight, let alone where I'll be in over a decade.
Exactly. It feels totally like science fiction, doesn't it? If you told me to plan my life for 2037, I would just laugh.
Oh, yeah.
But for the titans of the travel industry, 2037 is already happening.
It's locked in.
It is. So today, in our deep dive, we are looking at the concept of future-proofing in the cruise world. And we aren't just talking about, planning next season's buffet menu.
No, definitely not.
We are talking about multi-billion-dollar bets on the very distant future.
It really gives you a sense of the sheer scale these companies operate on. I mean,
Yeah.
we are coming off a period where everyone was just trying to survive the pandemic.
Just managing cash flow week to week.
Exactly. But now, the checkbooks are completely wide open.
Yeah.
And we're seeing a shift that goes way beyond just regular growth. It's becoming what we call a war for capacity.
A war for capacity.
Yeah.
I mean, that sounds a little bit dramatic for the vacation business, doesn't it?
It sounds dramatic, but in a business sense, it's actually quite literal. It's a scramble to secure two major things, a place to go and the physical steel to actually take people there.
Wow.
Because if you don't lock in your slot at a shipyard right now, you might not get a new ship until the 2040s.
That is wild.
The supply of places that can build these massive things is incredibly inelastic.
Okay, so to guide us through this insane timeline, we have two really massive stories from our source stack today. First, we have AIDA Cruises.
That's the big German brand.
Right, the German brand. They are making some very strategic moves into the Caribbean and the U.S. East Coast for late 2027.
Yes. That is what we'd call the destination play. It's all about securing the footprint.
And then on the other side, we have the hardware play. Norwegian Cruise Line Holdings, or NCLH, they just dropped a bombshell order for 3 massive new ships. But the delivery dates are what caught my eye, 2036 and 2037.
Which brings us right back to that mind-boggling timeline you mentioned.
Exactly.
It's basically a pincer movement.
Yeah.
Securing the destination on one end and securing the vessel on the other.
So let's start with the near future. Well, relatively near. 2027.
Sure.
AIDA Cruises. They are making headlines because of a very specific date, November 15th, 2027. Why is everyone in the industry circling this date? It seems like just another Tuesday on a cruise itinerary.
It is definitely not just another Tuesday for the strategists over at Carnival Corporation. That is the day AIDA makes its grand debut at Celebration Key.
Celebration Key. Okay, this is the new private destination we've been hearing so much about.
Exactly. It's situated on Grand Bahama Island. It opened back in mid-2025, developed by Carnival Corporation.
Okay.
Now, here's the essential context. AIDA is a German line, catering almost exclusively to German speakers. But it falls under the massive Carnival Corporation umbrella. And until now, we've mostly associated Celebration Key with Carnival Cruise Line and Princess Cruises.
The American-focused brands.
Exactly.
So explain the logic here. Why send a ship full of German tourists to a destination built primarily for the American mass market? Isn't that a bit of a culture clash waiting to happen?
It's a really fascinating test of the multi-brand private hub strategy.
Okay.
Think of it purely as asset utilization. Carnival Corporation has poured hundreds of millions of dollars into building this island hub.
Right.
If they only use it for their American brands, it sits empty on certain days.
Yeah.
Or they just leave money on the table.
Makes sense.
By plugging AIDA into that open slot, they're leveraging this massive, expensive asset across a completely different customer base.
It's interchangeable parts.
Precisely. It is highly efficient.
Yeah.
But you're right to wonder about the actual guest experience.
Yeah, because these private destinations are usually so tailored.
Very tailored. The food, the music, the signage. Bringing AIDA there means Carnival believes their infrastructure is flexible enough to handle a German demographic.
Who might expect totally different things than a Carnival passenger coming out of Florida? Expanding the menu, so to speak.
Right?
Now let's look at the actual ship doing the honors. It's the AIDAluna. And this isn't just a quick popover from Miami either. This is part of a 14-night repositioning cruise.
Classic repo cruise. Moving the ship from its fall home down to its winter home.
Now, usually when I hear repo cruise, I think cheap fares and like 6 days of just staring at the open ocean.
Right.
But looking at the specific itinerary, this seems really different.
It's very different. AIDA is actively trying to elevate the repo from just a logistical necessity into a premium product.
So the route starts November 5, 2027 in New York City. Then it heads down to La Romana in the Dominican Republic. But
Yeah.
the stops in between, you've got Bermuda, Miami, Grand Turk, Arroyo Barrel.
And then the big debut at Celebration Key.
Right.
It's a really smart itinerary because it creates a cohesive narrative. You get the urban city break in New York, the Atlantic crossing over to Bermuda, and then the full Caribbean beach experience.
It totally mitigates the boredom of the open ocean.
Absolutely.
But wait, we have to rewind a bit here because how the AIDAluna gets to New York in the first place is where it gets really interesting for the adventure geeks out there.
You were talking about the transatlantic crossing coming over from Germany.
I am. So the ship leaves Hamburg on September 3, 2027. Again, usually a transatlantic is just endless ocean days. Maybe a stop in the Azores if you're lucky.
If the weather holds, yeah.
But this one goes via Reykjavik in Iceland. And then, and this is the part that really got me, it has a Greenland routing.
That is a major operational flex by AIDA.
They are sailing through Prince Christian Sound and stopping at Nanortalik. Now, I've seen photos of Prince Christian Sound.
It's stunning.
It looks incredible, but isn't that a massive logistical nightmare for a standard cruise ship?
It is definitely not a casual Sunday drive.
Oh.
Prince Christian Sound is a very narrow, jagged fjord passage. You've got glaciers on both sides.
Wow.
It is highly weather-dependent, ice-dependent, and it requires incredibly precise pilotage. You do not just send a ship there on a whim.
So why do it? Why take that massive risk on a repositioning voyage?
Because it completely solves the boring sea day problem.
Ah.
If you can market the crossing as an expedition-light experience, seeing glaciers, navigating a tight fjord, you can charge a premium.
You turn a delivery trip into a bucket list trip.
Exactly. It signals that AIDA isn't just moving metal around the map. They are actively chasing the adventure traveler.
It creates scarcity, too. You can only really do this route once or twice a year.
Precisely.
Okay, so the ship arrives in New York, fall 2027. AIDAluna is running cruises out of the city. And I spotted a quirk in the itinerary planning here from our sources that I thought was pretty clever.
The Halifax and Boston combination.
Yes. Usually on these shorter runs up north, you get one or the other just because of the distance.
Right.
But for the first time in 2027, AIDA is offering a new 8-day itinerary that hits both Halifax and Boston on the exact same sailing.
That is a very aggressive schedule.
Is it?
Oh, yeah. To hit both those ports in an 8-day window means you are moving fast. But it makes a lot of sense if you think about their core target demographic.
The German guests.
Right. If you were a German guest flying all the way to New York or taking that epic ship crossing we just talked about, you don't want to choose between the history of Boston and the maritime vibe of Halifax.
You want the greatest hits album.
Exactly. AIDA is tightening up the logistics to give them everything in one single week.
It's just really efficient sightseeing, and the sources actually mention that AIDA is specifically framing this as a way for German guests to reach North America without flying.
Yes.
You take the boat from Hamburg to New York, do your season there, maybe stay for the Caribbean run. Absolutely no airplanes involved.
And that no-fly option is becoming increasingly valuable in the market. We are seeing a real rise in travelers who are either sustainability conscious and want to lower their carbon footprint.
Or, frankly, people who just hate the hassle of modern airports.
Exactly. AIDA is capitalizing on that friction.
Amen to that. If I could avoid airport security for the rest of my life, I would in a heartbeat.
Same here.
So after New York, AIDAluna heads south for the winter. And it's not alone down there.
No, this is where we really see the regional dominance play. Once AIDAluna reaches the Caribbean for the winter 2027 to 2028 season, it joins two other ships, the AIDA Bella and the AIDA Prima.
3 ships.
3 ships.
That seems like a lot of capacity for a German-speaking line in the Caribbean. Are they worried about oversaturation at all?
It's a calculated risk, for sure. It shows a massive amount of confidence that the German market really wants the Caribbean winter sun.
Right.
But it also creates a localized network. If you have 3 ships in the region, you have operational redundancy.
Like a safety net.
Exactly. If something goes wrong with one ship, you have resources and support nearby.
But playing devil's advocate here, what if I'm a German guest? I want a winter break, but I just hate the Caribbean. Maybe I'm tired of palm trees and high humidity.
Well, AIDA has hedged against that, too. They're promoting these winter break alternatives.
Okay.
Long-haul voyages starting round trip from Germany. For example, the AIDAmar is doing a 48-day cruise to Brazil and South America.
48 days. That is a sabbatical, not a vacation.
It is long.
Who actually has the time for that?
Retirees, mostly. Digital nomads. People with a lot of accrued leave, It's a completely different market segment.
I see.
Or there's a 21-day run to the Azores and Morocco.
Yeah.
The point is they are diversifying their portfolio so they aren't 100% dependent on the Caribbean working out.
Okay, so that is the software side of things, the deployment. AIDA is solving the puzzle of where to go in 2027.
Right.
But now let's shift over to the hardware, the actual steel. Because Norwegian Cruise Line Holdings is trying to solve the puzzle of what they will sail in 2037.
Yes. NCLH, which is the parent company of Norwegian, Oceania, and Regent Seven Seas, they just signed a massive deal with the Italian shipbuilder Fincantieri.
3 new ships. But again, those delivery dates, 2036 and 2037. I just have to ask, isn't technology going to be completely different in 12 years? Why lock this in now?
You have to look at the supply chain.
Right.
I mentioned the war for capacity earlier.
Right.
There are only a handful of shipyards in the entire world capable of building these complex megaships.
Yeah.
Fincantieri in Italy is one of the best.
So it's a huge bottleneck.
A massive one. Their order books are filling up incredibly fast. If NCLH waited another year or two to place this order, they might not be able to get a slot until 2040 or even later.
Wow.
In fact, CEO John W. Chidsey called this a disciplined approach to secure scarce construction capacity.
So it's basically like booking a wedding venue. If you want a Saturday in June, you better book it 2 years out.
Exactly.
Except here, it's a floating city and you're booking it 12 years out because there are only like 3 venues in the entire world.
That's a great way to put it. And by booking it now, they're effectively blocking their competitors from getting those slots. It's a defensive move just as much as an offensive one.
That is ruthless. I love it. Now they aren't just ordering 3 random ships. They ordered 1 for each of their 3 distinct brands. 1 for Norwegian Cruise Line, 1 for Oceania, and 1 for Regent Seven Seas.
It's a smart portfolio approach. They aren't putting all their eggs into the mass market basket.
Let's break down the specs from the deep dive sources because the difference in scale between these ships is absolutely fascinating to me. It really highlights the difference between mass market and luxury.
It really does. Let's start with the big one. The new ship for Norwegian Cruise Line.
The behemoth.
Yes.
We were talking approximately 227,000 gross tons, and it has over 5,000 passenger berths.
That is just massive. The source describes it as incorporating the latest megaship design approach.
Okay.
This is designed purely for economies of scale.
Yeah.
Maximum revenue, maximum guests, big attractions. Think go-karts, water slides, 20 different restaurants.
Yeah.
It is a literal city at sea.
Okay, now let's look at the upscale midsize option, the new ship for Oceania cruises. This one is going to be a sister ship to the Oceania Sonata.
Right, and the stats drop significantly right here. It's about 86,000 gross tons. And it carries around 1,390 guests.
So less than half the physical tonnage, but way less than half the people.
Exactly. And then you have the ultra-luxury option, the new ship for Regent Seven Seas Cruises. This is a sister to the Seven Seas Prestige.
And this is the aha moment for me. This ship is about 77,000 gross tons. That is not that much smaller than the Oceania ship physically.
No, it's not.
But the passenger count, only about 822 berths.
That is the metric that truly matters in luxury.
Let's just visualize that density for a second. Compare the NCL ship to the Regent ship. The NCL ship is roughly 3 times the physical size and tonnage of the Regent ship.
Right.
But it carries more than 6 times the number of people.
And that tells you everything you need to know. On the NCL ship, you are stepping into energy, noise, excitement, cues. You are part of a very big crowd.
Yeah.
On the Regent ship, with those ratios, you could realistically walk the deck and not see another soul for 10 minutes.
So that space ratio is effectively what you are buying.
It is. You aren't just paying for better champagne or a slightly bigger shrimp cocktail.
Right.
You are paying for the absence of other people. You are paying for privacy and square footage. And NCLH is betting that in 2037, there will still be incredibly strong demand for both the floating city and the private yacht experience.
It makes a lot of sense. You capture the customer at absolutely every entry point.
Precisely.
But looking at the business side of this, NCLH now has 17 new builds scheduled through 2037.
That is a staggering amount of metal.
It is. They're targeting a 4% compound annual growth rate.
Which is a very healthy, steady number. It's not exclusive tech startup growth. It is carefully managed industrial growth.
But here's the question I always have when I read these headlines. How on earth do they pay for this?
The finance.
I mean, these ships cost billions. Do they just write a check today for a ship arriving in 12 years? Because honestly, that sounds like a terrible way to manage cash.
It would be. And they don't do that. The source actually mentions that the pre-delivery payments are, quote-unquote, Immaterial.
Immaterial. I just love corporate speak. Translate that for us.
It essentially means they pay very little cash up front right now. They don't pay the bulk of the cost until they actually get the physical keys to the ship in 2036 or 2037.
Okay.
And even then, they use what's called export credit agency financing.
Walk me through that. Who is actually taking the risk here?
This is where geopolitics comes in. The Italian government essentially helps guarantee the loans
Really? Why would they do that?
because Fincantieri is a massive employer in Italy. Keeping those shipyards full for the next decade is a matter of profound national economic interest.
So let me get this straight. The Italian taxpayer is basically backstopping the construction just to keep their dry docks full?
In a way, yes.
Yeah.
It's a deeply symbiotic relationship. The cruise line gets cheap financing and doesn't have to put much cash down. That allows them to order billions in assets without wrecking their balance sheet today.
And the shipyard.
The shipyard gets 12 solid years of guaranteed work. Its industrial policy completely disguised as a bank loan.
That is the real deep dive insight right there. It is not just a boat, it is an international trade agreement.
Exactly.
Now, there is one other future-proofing element in this order that we absolutely have to touch on. The green angle.
Yes. Fincantieri and NCLH are focusing heavily on methanol readiness.
Methanol. We hear this buzzword a lot lately. Why is everyone suddenly pivoting to methanol?
Because the entire maritime industry is under immense pressure to decarbonize. Traditional heavy fuel oil is incredibly dirty.
Right.
Methanol, on the other hand, can be produced in a green way that is totally carbon neutral.
Okay.
But here is the catch. The fuel supply chain doesn't fully exist yet. You cannot just pull up to any port in the Caribbean and fill your ship up with green methanol.
Wait, so they are building these massive ships for a fuel that you can't even really buy yet?
Precisely.
That is a huge gamble.
It is. And it's not just about the fuel supply. It's about the physics of the actual ship.
How so?
The source notes that the future Prima-class ships, the ones coming in 2028, are actually being completely reconfigured.
Really?
Yes. They are lengthening the ship designs specifically to accommodate these green methanol fuel tanks.
Wait, they are making the physical ships longer just to fit the tanks? Why? Is methanol really that bulky?
It is. Methanol has a significantly lower energy density than traditional diesel.
Oh, I see.
So to get the exact same range, to sail the same number of days without needing to refuel, you need a much larger volume of fuel.
Yeah.
So you need bigger tanks. And bigger tanks mean you absolutely need a bigger hull.
So sustainability isn't just a PR buzzword here. It is literally altering naval architecture.
It is. They are fundamentally changing the steel to future-proof the vessel.
Mm.
It's a gamble for sure.
Yeah.
They are betting that by the time these ships actually launch in the late 2030s, the green methanol supply chain will be mature enough to feed them.
That is fascinating. It's kind of like buying a car that runs on a fuel that hasn't been widely invented yet, but lengthening your garage right now just in case.
A bit like that, yeah. But look, if they don't do it and regulations suddenly tighten, they could be left with a stranded asset.
A stranded asset.
Right. A multi-billion-dollar ship that legally isn't allowed to sail. So that methanol-ready stamp is basically their insurance policy.
So what does this all mean for you listening right now? Let's try to tie these two massive stories together. We have AIDA and we have NCLH.
If you look at the big picture here, we have two very different types of expansion happening simultaneously. AIDA is expanding its footprint.
Right.
They are claiming physical territory, Celebration Key, those New York terminal slots, the Greenland routes. They are securing where they sail.
And NCLH is securing what they sail.
That's exactly. NCLH is securing their future fleet. They are locking in those critical Fincantieri slots through 2037, just to ensure they actually have the capacity to compete in the decades to come.
So whether you are a traveler dreaming of that Halifax and Boston combo in 2027, or you are just someone who loves watching billion-dollar business strategy unfold, the takeaway is pretty clear. The cruise industry isn't just bouncing back. It is betting big on aggressive long-term growth.
They are definitely looking way past the horizon. They aren't planning for the next storm anymore. They're planning for the next generation of traveler.
But here's the thought I really want to leave you with today to just mull over. We're seeing these lines ordering ships for 2037 that are entirely methanol ready.
Yes.
The ships are coming. The technology is literally being welded into the steel as we speak. But will the global fuel supply chain actually be ready for the ships?
That is the big unknown right now.
We are building the vessels, but the infrastructure to fuel them is the missing piece of the puzzle. And honestly, that is the real race to watch.
That certainly is.
Thanks for diving in with us today. We will catch you on the next one.